All right, we're just hearing news now that a judge has ordered that Kentucky clerk, Ken Davis, to be released from jail for refusing to honor same-sex marriage licenses. She wasn't granting any, but I guess it's under the proviso that she can't be issuing licenses to anyone, that she can return to work and do that, but not that. That it's the law of the land via the Supreme Court, and these protests that have been going on in Kentucky ever since she was jailed, well, they might continue, but she can't go back to that specific old job and denying marriage licenses to gays who are seeking such licenses. Again, this comes after she was jailed on days that she is apparently going to be meeting with the likes of Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz, who are saying that she is being unfairly maligned for her religious beliefs. On the legal issue here, a judge has said you could think and pray all you want on this issue, but when it comes to marriage licenses, we don't want you to do anything with them or about them. Someone else is going to do it. You can get out of jail, but return to work having nothing to do with issuing these licenses. Apparently, that's the deal. All right, reaction now. Former Virginia Governor and Senator George Allen on this and so many other issues. You know, Governor, I was thinking of you. I mean, this has galvanized many in your party and many conservatives, but others say it's a distraction from some of the economic issues, and that it is the law of the land. I think it was John Kasich, with whom I'll be speaking later today on Fox News, that we have to honor it. The Supreme Court has spoken. What do you think?
Well, I think that somebody who takes an oath of office needs to comply with that oath and comply. And it's not an exception to it. If she didn't want to do it, have one of her deputy clerks do it. But you cannot ignore the Supreme Court decision, whether you like it or not. And you've sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution and administer the law.
All right, which is essentially what Kasich and others have been saying. But others have tried to make this a religious cause. Some have been saying that it detracts from some of the other messages of your Republican presidential colleagues. Do you agree with that?
Well, it's getting a lot of news. Obviously, religious freedom is the first freedom, and people should not be compelled to do things that are contrary to their deeply held beliefs. However, I think where the religious freedom is going to come into play in the future will be that you can't tell religious organizations, churches, synagogues, mosques, to perform acts or be involved in activities that are contrary to their deeply held beliefs. Religious organizations have their rules and their operations that are not necessarily consistent with civil law. But no one's telling a church you got to change your policies. That's the way a church or a religious organization ought to operate. And you should not be forcing people to comply with one type of religion or another. That's why it's called Mr. Jefferson's first freedom, the statute of religious freedom, where people's rights are not enhanced nor diminished on account of their religious beliefs. But we have a civil government, and we set what the rules are for equal protection and due process under the law while protecting people's rights of conscience.
You know, on a separate issue, maybe tangentially on the same issue, you have this going on at the same time Congress is back in session, and Republicans don't know how far to go. We talked to a North Carolina Congressman Meadows, who says he is still angry at House leadership and by extension Senate leadership that appears to cave to the president and not speak for those who are angry in the party. And I sense a tempest in a teapot, but what do you think?
I think the American people want to see action of that Republican House and Republican Senate. There are so many things going on that are harming our country and the competitiveness and the opportunities for American people. And one of the things are these regulations that are coming about by unelected, unaccountable bureaucracies rather than by the elected representatives of the people. These upcoming ozone regulations, which are the mother of all regulations, are going to cost $140 billion to our economy. 1.4 million people will lose jobs every year. The cost to a consumer of complying with these regulations that are very hard to comply with because there's not the technology to achieve those goals will cost an average family about $840 a year.
But Governor, that's in violation. The president is in violation of the Supreme Court that has ruled, especially when it comes to the EPA doing this stuff. You've got to weigh those costs, and obviously the rap against EPA wasn't doing that, yet we still see more and more of these regulations going unchallenged?
Well, they got to be challenged, Neil. That's what people expect out of their representatives. One, it could be challenged in the courts because we're all for a clean environment. And we can have a strong economy and a clean environment with balanced, reasonable regulations and policy. So these regulations that will come out at the end of this month can be challenged in court, but Congress also has the power of the purse. They could have a resolution of disapproval, and they can say that EPA shall have no funds whatsoever to implement these draconian, overly burdensome rules that have minimal impact on the environment, but severe harm to our economy and families and businesses and our national competitiveness.
Governor, thank you very, very much. Good seeing you again. Governor George Allen, the former fine governor of the state of Virginia.